is Nasirra R. Ahmed, and I am the founder of The Energy Architect. I am the chief coach at Energy Architect. I am so excited to share a soulful conversation today with Pearl.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Pearl Lorenzo with Women's Successful Living, and we are back with another episode of Soulful Self-Care Conversations. And I'm so excited because our guest today is coming from way across the world, and she's going to tell you where she's at right now. Not going to give that secret away, but Nasirra Ahmed is a two-time #1 international best-selling author, International Coaching Federation certified professional coach, and she's a life and leadership coach, speaker, mentor, and the founder and chief coach of the Energy Architect. I just did a book with her, you guys. We just hit #1 as well, so excited. But with over her 26 years of corporate and global leadership experience, Nasirra blends spirituality, neuroscience insights, and psychology in her coaching, anchored in both heart and strategy. And this is to help leaders and individuals redesign their inner architect. Her work focuses on clearing deep-seated emotional patterns, expanding awareness, and guiding people to rise into consciousness, authentic versions of themselves. And you guys know we love talking about that. And so before she founded the Energy Architect, Nasirra held senior leadership positions across large leading media and corporate organizations, building high-performance teams, shaping inclusive cultures, and driving transformative business growth. Her coaching practice today spans Asia, Australia, the US, the UK, and the Middle East, bringing a global yet deeply human approach to leadership, mindset, and transformation. I love that she's bringing this all over the world, this message, because it's so important, you guys. As a mentor to students to top B schools across India, IIM Nagpur, Delphi, and Jasmadpur. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. I'm so sorry if I say this wrong. She is passionate about shaping the next generation of emotionally intelligent and purpose-centered leaders through reflective and experimental learning. Recognized among India's top 10 successful personalities and top 50 under 50. Woohoo! Nasirra's insights have been featured in over 117 publications, including Business Stanford, the Print, and ANI News. Through the Energy Architect, she continues to bridge energy, neuroscience, and leadership, creating spaces where awareness becomes action and growth becomes transformation. And you guys, you know that's what I love to talk about on the show. I love about what are we doing in our life to bring awareness? How are we transforming our life? But what action are you taking? But biggest of all, and we're going to talk about this today, is how are you applying that energy to all of that? Like, what is draining your energy? But the biggest thing I'm really proud about having her today is I talk on the show all the time, you guys, about doing something that brings you joy, making a shift and making a change. And we're going to talk today how Nasirra went from this corporate amazing career she had into what she's doing today as an entrepreneur and reaching leaps and bounds around the world with her message. So Nasirra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Pearl. It's such a pleasure being here today. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you. I just love I love the tree on your logo. That's such a big close heart to me. It's a tree. I actually use something like it in a book I just did about our son, Matt. It's called Beyond Skin, Deep Stories of Cross-Cultural Adoptions. And we use a tree effect. I think that those trees mean so much. There's so many things that our limbs and our lives and the trees and the roots, how they affect us. So Nasirra, before we get to the amazing things that you're doing, I always have this one question that I ask. I always say, I don't have questions except for one, and that's the beginning. Because Nasirra, I want to talk to little Nasirra. I want to go back and visit her. When she was growing up, I want you to introduce us to her. I want you to tell us what she was like as a little girl, what was some of the things that she loved to do, and how does it relate to what you're doing today?
Okay. So, very interesting. I've never been asked that question before. And thank you. It's a lovely question. I grew up in a place called Bahrain, and when Nasira was little, she was very shy. Brought up in a proper Muslim family. My parents were very well educated, and they put so much of focus on being educated and qualified, maybe too much, a little bit. But yeah, I used to be very, very shy. And half the time I would never express the way I feel because I wasn't sure if whatever I say, would be judged um, or not considered. So I usually used to keep those feelings to myself. And I think as I grew up, um, there were certain situations in my life where I've had to stand up for myself. And then I heard myself really standing up for myself. And that really was a turning point for me where situations allowed me or forced me to really explore that side of my voice. And it was just one step at a time. And before you know it, I was able to, I mean, I came out of my shyness. And at that point, everything was working out for me because, I got qualified. I took the first job that was offered to me. I was doing well. Everything was just working out perfectly. So if you're going to ask me, like, how I am, how did I get here today? I'd have to say that I, from being very shy, I think I became very aggressive in the corporate environment. And once you don the cap of like this leader, there's a little bit more pressure to be a little bit more tougher and a little bit more aggressive. And there was this side of me that kept fighting it because, my bosses were telling me, you're a woman and they won't take a woman seriously. We need you to be a little bit more stronger and more aggressive. And I was doing that because that's what the role required. But there was this voice inside me that said that, I got qualified and everything because my parents wanted me to. I took the first job that was offered to me and I grew. I did so well. It was so important for me to be successful. My entire identity was based on, my designation and the package that I was drawing. And I was trying to fake it till I make it because there was some amount of aggression, but maybe not that kind of crazy, competitive, aggressive fire that the corporate was asking of me. And it became very, very testing, especially during COVID time, where people they really had no idea what was happening. And the staff they were losing their family members left, right, and center. And my company was asking me to put more pressure on them because, everybody had to survive, the company had to show profit, salaries were still being paid. On one side, I lost my mother-in-law in the hospital, and I still remember the time that she was in the hospital. I was sitting in my car and I was thinking, this last email, it has to go out. It has to go out. So I'm sitting over there, turning on my hotspot, sending that email out. And um, yeah, and she didn't make it. And what was I doing all this for? And I realized that, am I really doing what I really wanted to do? I mean, all of this was because of this whole identity that I was chasing, to really look and be successful. But what was my real purpose in life? And was it worth it at the end of the day? When you're losing friends, you're losing family, and you are driving someone else's dream and killing your own voice. And I think that was when the energy architect was born. I went back and put in my papers. That voice was so loud. And I got certified with coaching. I went through the entire training. So, and then there was no looking back. So that was my journey from the little Nasira to where I am here today. I wasn't sure as to where I was going to end up, but there's this faith, there's this inner voice that guides you, and I've always been open to that, and I've really listened to that. Earlier, it was more because other people were telling me, but this is something that I was doing because my soul was guiding me, and and that's why I find it so beautiful.
My
I
God,
love where I am today.
yeah, it's so powerful. I mean, I can hear, like, I hope you that are listening, I hope you, and if you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you could hear and see, like, I could feel like I've got chills right now as you were sharing the story, like taking us from Little Zira. And cultures, we forget sometimes when we're in the US, cultures are very different than where we are, right? And sometimes there are these expectations based on different cultures that you're going to go do this, you have to go do that because of the expectations. Oftentimes, like you were sharing, we put this pressure on ourselves, and then we start losing, like you were saying, like little Nasira was losing her voice. She was like living somebody else's dream. Like when you talked about standing up for self, and you're right. I mean, I think about here in the States, it was only 50 years ago that here in the States that women could start voting and buying and getting checking accounts and everything like that, right? And so it's like we're in this world, and I don't want to go down that path, but there are these worlds that we're losing the fact that it was only 50 years ago that we were able to do those things. And what you said about, you need to be tougher. Like people tell us what we need to be. And so we start shaping ourselves to that expectation that others want. And that goes even to those that are, my amazing, what I call instead of stay-at-home mom, I call them CEO moms. It goes to the CEO moms all the way up to the C-suite, professionals, because we get these expectations, or we land that job, or we land that thing that we wanted, and then we're like, oh, but they expect me to do this. Then we start losing why we want to do that. And so we start shaping ourselves to that other person's, or that corporate world of expectations. And, I sat there, and as you were saying it put me right back to COVID and thinking, wow, here you are. Like you said, people were losing loved ones, but, and we understand, we appreciate companies still have to survive in order to help us survive, right? They were trying to find a happy balance too. I can't imagine being on that end, and I could hear it in your voice, and I could see it in what, as you're saying it, like having to tell those loved ones that worked with you that, well, we understand, and work still has to get done. Like that's so hard. And then to have it happen to you, like I loved my mother-in-law passed before COVID, but my mother-in-law, my father-in-law showed me what true parental love was like. I didn't have it growing up. And so when you were talking about your mother-in-law, I could just see the love in your heart for her, and I could just feel the pain too. What you're thinking, man, I need to be with the family, but I got to sit here and get on a hotspot to send this email out. It's like you've got this torn, and what you said, and I wrote down, you know, doing somebody else's dreams, and while we're killing our own voice, is what I heard you say, right? Like we're killing our own voice because we're living somebody else's dream. And I'm glad you said that, because that's the message I love to get across on this show, is that what are you doing to live your dream instead of doing somebody else's dream? What are you doing to release the armors to say yes to your life? We can be, whether you're an amazing CEO mom or all up to the C-suite, whether you have kids or don't have kids, you can be all those things you want to show up for others, but you can't be them or show up for them you want to if you're not overflowing your cup. And people laugh and they think, oh, fill the cup, fill the cup. It's so true. If we don't the overflow is what you give. And if we don't start saying yes to our dreams, our energy, the things that, I mean, whatever you believe in, for me, it's God. So God said he brought me here to this earth, and he had a plan for me. So I need to figure out what that plan is. And the only way I can figure that out is to take, like you said, take that energy of what I'm giving to somebody else's dream and start pouring it into what my dream should be. And I love that you reminded us of that, because I think that's so powerful. And I want the listeners and the viewers to understand that, ask yourself that question. What are you doing to live your dream instead of somebody else's dream? And if you have a challenge with that, I want you to reach out to us. We're going to put context in the show notes and learn how you can start stepping into what you're supposed to be. I call it that Shiro self, stepping into becoming stronger, happier, empowered, radiant, and original person you're meant to be. And I'm glad I was the first one to ask you that question, Nasirra. It's my favorite question. I love to ask because it it allows us to become vulnerable. We forget about our inner child sometimes, and we need to talk to her. We need to say hi to her. We need to say, hey, thanks for all the things you've been through and all the lessons you've given me. And I'm taking care of us from here. And I'm glad that you did that. I'm glad you let me do that with you, and you trusted me, because I love that I was the first one to do it. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Thank
let's
you.
talk about, you know it's a big leap, especially, let's just talk about in your culture, right? It's a big leap to say, I'm going to leave all the expectations that, let's forget culture for a second, but all the expectations that, I think I'm supposed to do, that to be successful, I have to have that 9 to 5 job. To be successful, I have to, shape myself to whatever expects. And then you add on the layer of, then we come back to the culture of, this is what my family expects from me. This is what my culture expects from me. How did you communicate that to your loved ones around you, and also, how did you massage it for yourself to be like, I'm going to take the step? I talk about stepping out of the box. So how did you step out of the expectation box and into creating this beautiful world that you've created in your coaching world?
I think it all boils down to feeling authentic. It wasn't easy when I decided to start on my own. It wasn't easy. I wasn't sure how to start. I just said, okay, I'm not going to intellectualize it too much. I'm just going to start. All right. And I did. Um, my parents were, my parents, my husband, they were all very accepting of this. But I think the bigger challenge was what I was facing, which was really unlearning all of the conditioning that had layered on top of me, since I was a child, and everything that they teach you in corporate, and really shifting from that space of being an employee to an entrepreneur. And that was difficult because there's so much of unlearning to do before you really start learning, right? And to learn something new, I had to let go of the old. And I was also in this situation where the old me was not completely dead, and the new me was like not really um, born yet, or I was like in the becoming of whatever was to happen, right? And that is such a confusing stage because you just don't know what to focus on. Like, who am I? So these huge existential questions of what do I do now? Who am I? And what I realized was, when people say fake it till you make it doesn't really work. That does not resonate with me. Because when you're faking till you make it, what happens is you lose your authenticity and you keep trying, but you're not consistent and you forget how to fake sometimes. But when you're authentic, it just comes from the heart and you continue to be consistent and true to your purpose because you don't show up as anyone else. That's just you. So
Yeah.
that is what I allowed to emerge for me, for myself, um, to slowly take shape into the coach and the mentor that I am today.
I love that you mentioned the fake it till you make it, because that I felt the same way you did. Finding being your authentic self. But I want to go back, like, who am I? That whole identity, like who, that because you're right, as you're transitioning from, and I remember as I transitioned from, my world in mortgages to my world of, I so mom and now my entrepreneur, it's a very different shift and movement because it's like
Yeah.
this has been your identity for so long. I was a top mortgage broker in my company and then loan officer. And then it's like, oh, that's gone. So then it's like, okay, but you kind of, you're getting pulled. You feel like you're like on, playing tug of war a little bit, right? It's like
Yeah.
that same thing. But you said something that reminded me when I was trying to figure out my identity. So I used to just do health and wellness. I just coached on that. And I would have clients come in and, they would come in. It was a very strict program that I coached on. You weren't allowed to have like fats, fruits, or carbs. So if you had anything off that path that was not part of the program. And so I had done the program, I lost 60 pounds. And so I became a coach. And the person that on the clinic and I learned under, if you came in and you had something like maybe you had a cupcake, right? She would be all over you. You know what it's done to you? You felt like you went to the principal's office, right? And me, I don't respond to that kind of stuff. So you come to me and I'd be like, okay, Nasirra, so tell me what was happening when you were having the cupcake. Like, what was going on? What was happening that day? What were your thoughts? Because there's things actions that happen that lead us to making decisions, that good or bad, right? And so I started finding that my clients would be like, hey, Pearl, will you go sit with my friend? Like, she doesn't need to lose weight or he doesn't need to lose weight, but he just needs somebody to help him with his mindset. I'm like, okay. So I'd go have tea because I don't drink coffee. And then I started going, what are you telling me, God? Because like I keep doing this for free. So basically, I decided I wanted to go on this life coaching experience. I wanted to kind of bring that into my world. So I started with taking this identity and destiny course. It was a 6-week course. And each week we did different things to break down who we are. We had to, decide what are our ethics, what are our values and things like that. And at the end, we had to give our I am statement. And I remember at the end, I kept saying, I am a mom and a wife. And the person, Shannon, who sat across from me, she's like, she leaned in, she's like, who the heck are you? Like, did you not pay attention for 6 weeks? And I was like, I still was sitting there going, man, I wasn't being authentic with myself to deep into this course that I think I was scared to figure out who I was because for so long from like third grade, I was always a caregiver or somebody or something. My people pleasing showed up in like the third grade when my dad and my mom was like, you got to help take care of your brother and sister. I became this person that fast forward an adult that I didn't want to be in the third grade. I shouldn't have had to be, but that was my world. And so I went on this journey of after the course going, I need to figure out who the heck Pearl was. And the funny thing in this area is that people, oh, your name is so beautiful. And I wear pearls all over now, right? But at this course, when I took it, I told her I didn't like my name. I hated my name growing up. I was called Pearl because I was short, Pearl Bailey, Mini Pearl, Pearl Go Take a Nap because my maiden name was Nap. I would come home and ask my mom to please change my name. My name's 3 generations old. It wasn't going to happen. And so as I went on, fast forward to this course, and I left this course going, I need to figure this out because this is not good if I think I'm just a mom and a wife. And so as I was doing this, I started falling in love with my name again. I started falling in love with who I was. And so now, yeah, everywhere I go, I have jeans that wear pearls. I'm like, I just embrace her now, right? And I think because my little Pearl, she was so shy, she had some trauma that happened in her life. So she kind of just shut down and didn't let people in. And so, as you said, like being your authentic self, like the fake it till you make it, I totally agree with you because it's just like affirmations. People say, oh, do an affirmation. It says, I have all the money in the world. And people look at me, and I'm like going, well, what if you only have $2 in the bank? Are you really going to believe it? You're not going to believe it. You're going to fake it and it's never going to appear. But if you could do something with the mindset that says, I'm going to take action steps and I'm going to do things today that are going to lead me to find abundance in my life, then guess what happens? Abundance comes in so many different ways and sometimes even in your bank account. And so I love what you said, like, we have to unlearn the conditions that we've learned all our life and shift into what, like you said, when you shift in your entrepreneur, shift into what brings us joy. and learning to feel that authentic self. And I love that your parents were accepting of it, especially for your culture, because I know sometimes in cultures it's a like hard no. What are you thinking? And so it's so beautiful that your parents were accepting of it. And so for somebody who's listening right now, walk us through like what you do and how like if somebody is in the same space right now, they're struggling a little bit with like, I don't want to fake it to make it. I love what they're saying about being authentic. Help them understand what kind of steps you help your clients do to get to that point.
So there are a few things. First of all, I try and get a clarity as to what do you really want to do? Where do you really want to be? I also identify whether it is a self-limiting belief, if they just need clarity to get on to the next stage of their life or to choose between two options or two, three options. I also am certified to do the inner child healing, and I work with somatic therapy as well and NLP. So I will be able to identify if this has been, triggered through a trauma or your own belief or situations, like real life situations. And depending upon whom I'm speaking with and what their specific issue is, I would go about it that way. For example, if somebody is just looking at career and maybe the next option, then of course it will be a simple, pure coaching kind of a conversation. But if I see that, somebody has like a limiting belief, then I will work a little deeper on their belief system, maybe try NLP. But if the root is trauma, where, they feel that they are not enough or they're not able to, or if this is a generational belief, then I will integrate the inner child and uh, somatic therapy into my coaching. So it really depends upon the situation. Um, for some people, it's very simple. For some people, it's very complicated. Some people don't even know why they are going through what they're going through. So that entire thing of bringing in, first of all, the awareness, like, what is really going on? Like, where is this coming from? And then after that, we decide, depending upon the person's openness as well, because there are some people who may consider some of the stuff woo woo, and there are some people who are um, very right brained or left brained. Some people just need the facts. I just recently got certified in Lumina, where it's like, like a psychometric exam, like a test. And, and there are lots of overlaps of colors and personalities and uh, show you all of your, what do you say, blind spots. So for me, I feel as though I am like a mirror where I'm not telling you what to do, but I really hold that mirror up for whomever I am coaching with so that they see themselves and they take the decisions for themselves as to how they want to really move forward.
I think that's so beautiful. Like, I love how that's a lot of what we do as alike. Cause I do, you meet them where they're at. It's like, let's meet you where you're at. And then I love the mirror part too. Like, look in the mirror and, self-awareness is so important. And then also sometimes, cause like you said, they don't understand and I know I went through this myself too. We don't understand, it's the why me, like, why does this happen to me kind of, thoughts process. And that's why the inner child is so important, because you got to go back and look at the inner child and see what happened. And I love when I talk to my son's friends and they're starting to have kids. I'm like, okay, listen, excuse me. I'm like, let me just tell you, up to 7 years old, you're shaping this little child. You're shaping what they're going to become as an adult. think about what you are today as an adult. Think about the things you've been through and the mindset. And like you talk about woo, they're like, oh, here goes your mom. She's being woo woo, but think about those things because that's going to shape the your child that you want to raise and their thought process. Because we have to understand where the triggers come from, and that's why for me it was so important to recognize that mine came from third grade. Like I could identify exactly when it happened. I could almost in some ways even pinpoint the time and what was the situation that was happening. Excuse me. So I love that you talked about the big thing I wrote down is we got to get clarity and we need to be aware. We need to be aware. And then
And
and
there's some, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Uh, and one thing that I think is really important to mention here is that sometimes there's this gap between the knowing and the doing, as in you know, but you don't do. So, like, what
Yeah.
really stops you? And really identifying that, becoming aware of what stops you.
Yeah, the knowing and
That,
the doing gap. Yeah.
the gap,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because I've been doing a lot of that recently too. It's like I know, but why, and part of mine too is like, I think I shared with you when you and I talked before, I lost my oldest son 3 years ago in a tragic car accident. And the stages of grief that happen, it's so crazy because it's like I know what to do, but why am I not doing it? And I had to recognize like the first year I just felt like I was just walking through life. Like I'm just existing through and trying to figure this out. That second year was like that whole acceptance, like accepting that he's not going to walk through the door, accepting that, he did make a bad choice, accepting, what was presented to me. And then also recognizing there's so much truth. I'd been through COVID fog because I had COVID and I knew what COVID fog was. So luckily I was able to understand the grief fog that was coming up. But ever so often, I feel like that grief fog starts to creep back in here or there, and excuse me, I'm starting to realize when it's coming up and how it affects me and my business and my personal life. And so I'm starting to learn to knowing and what I'm doing with that and helping fill that gap. And I'm so glad you talked about that. So tell us with the energy architect, tell us a little bit about, what how did why that name? What was so important for you to call the energy architect? I love the name. I think energy, it just, tell us a little bit about that birth of her.
Okay, this is really funny. So, Energy Architect was actually the name of my assignment when I was doing strategic digital marketing. And I checked, and nobody else had that name in the space of the I wasn't really serious about it, but even then I was thinking, I think that's really sounds like me, you know? And I love the name, and I was discussing this with another friend, and my friend happened to use the name for herself. And till then, Energy Architect was not that important to me. But as soon as I saw somebody else take it, and you have to understand that because it was an assignment, I didn't think it was anything serious. I was like, I need to trademark that. I need to trademark it. And I'm like, I'm really gonna, I mean, if I fought, if I lost a friend over that, if it was that important to me, this must have meant something. And I said, I'm going to go all the way out. I think that was like the catalyst of how Energy Architect was born. And the
That's
reason,
so powerful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was painful, and I lost a childhood friend over the name. And I was like, if it was just a name, I don't, and if it didn't mean anything to me, I don't think it would have bothered me that much where I lost a friend, one of my best friends. And after that, it became the center of everything that I did. And the reason why I used the name Energy Architect was because if you look at my logo as well, you will see a tree. It's got very deep roots,
Mhm.
maybe not so much in the logo, but For me, that's how I understand it. And it's got a heart in the center. Okay. This also, for me, because I also work with energy work and I believe in the chakra system. Okay. The roots is something that really grounds you. Gives you stability. It's your foundation. They go deep into the ground and they make you so strong. And even if there's a storm around you, because you're so grounded and because your roots are so deep, I think the storm can go around you and you're strong enough to still stand because of how deep those roots are. But at the same time, also it's a very heart-centric approach because compassion and love is one of the strongest frequencies in the world. And this is something that resonated with me completely. I knew that this is exactly me. And even my coaching is very similar. Um, for me, when I work on an individual, a lot of people, a lot of coaches can be very transactional and they're working on, the superficial stuff. But for me, when I talk about energy architect, I talk about the inner architecture of the individual. You know, what is really inside of you that is making you you? And who would you like to be in the most authentic way? There is no right way, there is no wrong way, but there is that authentic you. And what is it that will make you stronger and connects you and aligns you with your purpose that you were meant to um, live this life. So it is like an alignment with strength.
I think it's everything you said. Like I'm looking at the logo behind you, and I can see all of that. Like it's like the roots, like they are strong, they're deep, they're wide, really heavy roots, and then the heart, like heart center, like right smack dab in it. It's so true. Heart center is so true. And speaking to your friend, I mean, you brought the idea first. A true friend wouldn't have taken something you said and try to run with it. And it's interesting you talked about that because I'm going through something with that right now, not with a friend, but making sure I trademark something. And I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want anybody to be like, oh, let me go beat her to the race. But I'm doing that right now too. And it's so important. So if you are listening to us, if you are building something, or even if you just have something you have a mindset over, look at trademarking it, look at getting that started because it's so important to get on that path of protecting your idea because it is your idea. I kind of laugh too, like patents and stuff. Like I just saw this really cool thing to do with arch balloons, and I'm like, and this person created, I'm like, man, I told my husband, it reminds me when the kids were little, and I was like, we had the little mobiles. We'd have to go wind up the mobiles to keep them. I'm like, I used to say, we need a remote control. And bam, somebody created. I'm like, and like you get these ideas in your head, it's like go run with them, go start patent or something because they're yours. They're your idea. That's something that brings you, a good center and everything about you. It just fits, and so good for you for fighting for it. Good for you to be like, I'm going to take it on because it's all you, and that's the thing when we our authentic self. We exude it inside and out, and I just love that we had that discussion today. I just looked at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, our time's almost up. We've been talking, having so much fun. So what I would love for you to do is, if you can let everybody know how they can reach you, if you have anything you want to offer them, give free or whatever, feel free to do that. Any of that stuff, we're going to put it in the show notes. So if you're driving and you can't take any notes, please don't worry. It's all the show notes. You can go read it and copy it. But go ahead and start. Tell me how they can reach you.
Okay, the easiest way is that you can Google me. I think, I will show up, or else you could go to www.nasira.com. Nasira.com. It's Nasirra.com.
All
And
right. So,
something that
uh-huh.
I would like to offer, something that I would like to offer to people who would want to reach out to me, just connect with me and uh, uh, I'd love to offer a 30-minute gift from my end for anybody who would want to just speak to me and, do a consultation.
Awesome. I'm going to put all that in the show notes so they can all reach out to you. I want to thank you for being on. But before you get to go, we have our little cards I talked to you about. So these are our Better Questions,
Okay.
Better Life cards. My friend Carol Gill and her friend Diane Allen created these. So I'm going to shuffle them so you can see that I'm shuffling them. And I'm going to have you tell me when to pull out the card, when to stop. So you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, so your card is what do I love? Your question is what do I love? So I'll go first to give you an example. What do I love? I love when I see people really show up and go after their dreams. And when they step into understanding that they have to say yes to themselves, because if they don't, they can't show up for everybody else. And my story, if you follow my show, my story is very layered and different things have happened in my life, not just the biggest loss, but also the biggest win. And that is, I have an amazing family. No matter what I've been through, I still have love in my life, and that I embrace that love. And that's what carries me forward. So, and they embrace me understanding that I have to put myself first. So that's what I love. Do you want to share yours?
Yeah, sure. Something that I believe I love right now is my journey, because when I started off, it was just one step every day. But standing where I am today, and when I look back, I did not realize how far I'd come. And it's just with that one intention of taking that one step every single day. And that is something that I love, my journey.
I love that. And I love watching your journey. And I know those that are watching and listening, you guys all have your own journey. Step into it. Stop hiding behind it. Like, don't be afraid to take, even if you took one toe out and identify what your joy is and start going after one thing that's on your joy list. I promise you life is going to be so different. And if you don't know how to do that, all you have to do is follow the banner down below. You can send us an email. We'd love to help you figure out what your joy list looks like. You can create your own and schedule your own joy clarity call where we spend about an hour together identifying your joy and clarifying if it really does bring you joy. And if it doesn't, how to start releasing it. So I'm so excited we had you on today. And before I let everybody go, I just remind you that you come into this world, you are this rough shell on the outside. This oyster, it's got to be worked and pried open. But as you pry it open, you're going to find your inner pearl of greatness and become the Shira that you are. So go out today and say yes to your life.
Well, thank you so much.
I just want to tell you guys what a fun show that was to talk to Nasirra. And the biggest thing I took away from that is stop letting other people kill your dreams. Stop letting everybody drain your joy. Stop letting everybody put you last. Because when you allow others to do that to you, your joy list gets pushed down to the bottom. And so I just want to tell you, I love the conversation we had. I love that Nasirra had family that supported her when she wanted to make this transition. And way to go, girlfriend, for fighting for that name you want. We've got to fight for the things that we want in our life, and we can release the armor so that we can show up the way we want to. So if you're struggling with that, like I said earlier in the show, I would love to hop on a joy clarity call with you. All you have to do is follow the link in the below banner, and it will lead you to making your joy clarity call. Go out and make it a beautiful day and find your inner Shiro. Have a great day.